famous landmarks in the world.
Ooh, that sounds interesting.
It's Gustave Eiffel's private apartment
Right.
at the top of the Eiffel Tower.
I had no idea there was an apartment up there.
Right. Me neither. We've got a great article here from Atlas Obscura.
Oh, I love that website.
Me too. It's a website dedicated to like all these unusual and kind of hidden, fascinating places
Yeah.
all over the world. And this is a great example of that. So have you ever like imagined having your own place right at the top of the Eiffel Tower? Could you imagine?
Oh, gosh, yeah. The view would be incredible.
Right. It's like the ultimate room with a view.
Yeah, and it gives us a chance to kind of peek into Eiffel's life, beyond just being this famous engineer.
Yeah, for sure.
When you picture the Eiffel Tower, you think of this, huge industrial iron structure.
Yeah.
But then you hear about this hidden apartment.
Right.
It kind of changes the whole feel, doesn't it?
Totally. The article describes it as like cozy.
Really?
Yeah, with like warm wallpaper and comfortable furniture.
Huh. I wouldn't have pictured that.
I know, right? It's kind of wild to think about this like really personal and intimate space existing right in the middle of this like huge monument that everyone knows.
It definitely makes you rethink Eiffel as a person.
For sure.
You think of him as this larger-than-life figure.
Right.
But this apartment shows that he also wanted a place to just be himself.
Exactly. And get that there's a grand piano in the apartment.
A piano up there.
Yeah. It's not exactly what you'd expect in a secret hideaway.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
That makes me think that this wasn't just a functional space for him.
Right.
It shows that he appreciated the finer things in life.
Yeah.
Maybe he even wanted to, explore his artistic side.
It definitely adds another dimension to his personality. We
Yeah.
see him not just as the engineer behind this massive tower,
Right.
but also as someone who enjoys music and maybe even finds inspiration in playing the piano high above the city.
And the article also mentions that the apartment was connected to laboratory areas.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. So even in his personal space, he was still focused on science.
Exactly.
What kind of experiments was he working on up there?
That's where it gets really interesting. The article doesn't go into detail, but it does say that Eiffel was fascinated by aerodynamics and meteorology.
Oh, wow.
And he used the tower itself for all sorts of experiments.
So cool.
He even had a wind tunnel installed up there.
Wait, a wind tunnel in his apartment?
Apparently, talk about dedication.
Wow. So it wasn't just a retreat.
Nope.
It was like a full-blown scientific hub.
Exactly. It really highlights how important scientific exploration was to him.
Yeah.
It's like a part of his everyday life.
It really was. It's like this perfect blend of his different sides.
Yeah.
The engineering, the artistic, and the scientific all coming together in one place.
A multifaceted man, for sure.
Yeah.
And he wasn't just working and doing his own thing up there.
Right.
He also entertained some pretty important guests in this exclusive space.
You mean like Thomas Edison?
Exactly. Edison visited Eiffel's apartment in 1889.
Wow.
It was a legendary meeting.
Yeah.
Like two of the greatest innovators of all time coming together.
Oh, I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall for that conversation.
It definitely sparks the imagination. Two of history's biggest names just hanging out at the top of the Eiffel Tower.
And what's really cool is that Edison gave Eiffel a phonograph as a gift.
A phonograph.
Yeah. It seems so fitting considering where they were.
Oh, absolutely.
It really makes you wonder what they talked about.
I know, right? What kind of ideas they shared.
Maybe even what they thought the future would look like.
This meeting shows that the apartment wasn't just about Eiffel's personal life.
Yeah.
It was also a place where he could connect with other brilliant minds.
It was like a hub for the scientific elite.
Exactly. And the fact that it was so exclusive probably made it even more fascinating to people.
Oh, totally. The article mentioned that everyone wanted to get a glimpse inside.
They were constantly trying to rent it out or host parties there.
I bet. It must have been the most sought-after invitation in Paris.
But Eiffel refused all of the requests,
Yeah, he did.
which really says a lot about him.
What do you mean?
Well, this apartment was his sanctuary. It was a place for privacy and personal reflection.
Right.
He wanted to control who he shared this special place with.
It's almost like he created this secret space to have some control over his life.
Yeah.
Because creating something as massive and public as the Eiffel Tower must have come with a ton of attention.
Absolutely. And this apartment let him step away from all of that.
That makes sense. It also adds to the mystery and intrigue of the apartment.
For sure. The fact that it was off limits just made people even more curious about it.
It's interesting how the apartment shows these two sides of Eiffel's life.
What do you mean?
Well, on one hand, he's this famous engineer who built this huge public monument.
Right.
But then on the other hand, he has this private sanctuary hidden away at the top.
It's like a contrast between the grand and the intimate.
Yeah, exactly. It makes you wonder if he did that on purpose.
Maybe he wanted to show these different parts of himself through the tower and the apartment.
That's a really interesting thought. It's like the apartment is a key to understanding who he really was.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And it reminds us that even the most famous people have private sides.
Right.
They have hidden desires, and they need spaces where they can just be themselves.
That's so true.
Yeah.
So even though the Eiffel Tower was meant to be this symbol of progress and modernity,
Right.
this secret apartment shows that it was ultimately created by a man with his own personal dreams and passions.
And even contradictions.
Exactly. It's fascinating. Now, there's one more detail about Eiffel's apartment that I found really intriguing.
Oh, what's that?
So the article mentioned that today visitors can only peek into the apartment through a window.
Oh, yeah.
They can't actually go inside. But back when Eiffel was alive,
Uh-huh.
there was at least one other person who got to experience the apartment firsthand.
Oh, really? Who was that?
A journalist.
A journalist.
Yeah, Eiffel invited him to spend the night in the apartment during a really bad storm.
Why? During a storm? Why would he do that?
That's what I was wondering.
It seems kind of risky.
Right, but I think it was actually a really smart move on Eiffel's part.
How so?
Well, remember when the Eiffel Tower was first built? A lot of people hated it.
Oh, yeah. They thought it was an eyesore.
Exactly. Some people were even worried that it would collapse.
I'd forgotten about that. So maybe he was trying to prove them wrong.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
He wanted to show people that the tower was safe
Uh-huh.
and that it could withstand even the worst weather.
And what better way to do that than to invite a journalist to stay there during a storm?
Right. And not just any journalist.
Right.
Someone who could write about the experience and share it with everyone.
That's brilliant. He could control the story and make sure that people heard a positive perspective.
Exactly. And what a story it must have been.
Can you imagine?
The wind howling, the city lights twinkling below.
Wow.
And Eiffel himself just calmly explaining how he designed and built the tower.
I bet that journalist's article completely changed people's minds about the tower.
Oh, for sure. It showed them that it wasn't just this cold metal structure. It
Right.
was a place of beauty and wonder, even during a storm.
It humanized both Eiffel and the tower.
Yeah. It showed the human ingenuity and resilience behind it.
And it highlights the power of storytelling.
Oh, totally. Even back then, Eiffel understood how important it was to shape public perception.
Absolutely. He was a master at using the media to his advantage.
Which brings us to another interesting point. The article mentioned that Eiffel's apartment is now a popular spot for marriage proposals.
Really?
Ah.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, it's not hard to see why.
The view, the history, the romance of it all.
It's like the perfect combination.
It's become this symbol of love and commitment.
It really has. It's like people want to mark this special moment in their lives in this special place.
And in a way that's a fitting legacy for Eiffel.
Right. He built this structure as a testament to human progress and innovation.
But it's also become a symbol of love and inspiration.
It's incredible. Do you think Eiffel ever imagined that his creation would become so iconic?
It's hard to say. But I do think he knew that the tower had the potential to be something truly special.
I mean, he fought so hard to get it built.
Yeah, he faced so much opposition.
He really believed in his vision.
And he wouldn't give up.
And thank goodness he didn't. I can't imagine Paris without the Eiffel Tower.
Me neither. It's become such a central part of the city.
Yeah, it represents so much.
The art, the romance, the history.
Everything. It's amazing to think about how the Eiffel Tower has evolved over time.
From a controversial structure to a beloved landmark.
And this secret apartment gives us this unique glimpse into the mind of the man who created it all.
Yeah, it reveals his passions, his challenges, his lasting impact.
It reminds us that behind every great creation, there's a human story.
And sometimes those little details like a secret apartment can tell us so much.
It really makes you wonder what other hidden stories are out there.
Oh, absolutely. Not just in the Eiffel Tower, but in all the landmarks and monuments around the world.
It's like a reminder to always look deeper.
To dig beneath the surface and see what we can find.
Exactly. Now, before we finish our deep dive into Gustave Eiffel's secret apartment,
Okay,
there's one more thing I wanted to mention.
I'm listening.
So we talked about how this apartment was Eiffel's kind of private space away from all the craziness of the tower.
Yeah.
But it seems like he also used it to connect with other people who were like really into science and technology.
Right, like his meeting with Thomas Edison. That must have been such an interesting conversation.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Imagine if we could go back in time and just listen in.
I know, right?
Who else from that time period would you have wanted to see Eiffel invite to his apartment?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Um, I think I'd go with Nikola Tesla.
Tesla. Oh, that's a great choice.
Yeah.
He was such a visionary, especially when it came to electricity. I
Because
can only imagine the kind of conversations they would have had about the future of technology.
it's mind-boggling.
Right.
Yeah.
Both Eiffel and Tesla were all about pushing boundaries.
Yeah. They weren't afraid to challenge the status quo.
They both really believed in the power of technology to transform the world.
And to think they could have had these discussions in that little apartment high above the city.
It's pretty amazing. It makes you think about that whole era.
Yeah.
It was a time of so much change and innovation.
Definitely.
Yeah.
People were making groundbreaking discoveries left and right.
It felt like anything was possible.
And Eiffel's apartment kind of represents that.
It does. It's like a symbol of that era of progress and possibility.
It's a reminder that these kinds of spaces are so important.
What do you mean?
Places where people can come together and share their ideas and inspire each other.
Oh, I see. You're right. It doesn't have to be a fancy apartment.
Nope, it could be anywhere.
Like a coffee shop or a library or even just an online forum.
Exactly.
Yeah.
As long as there's that spirit of collaboration and curiosity.
I think that's a really important takeaway from all of this.
Yeah.
The legacy of Eiffel's secret apartment isn't just about him or the tower itself. It's about the power of bringing people together and sharing ideas.
And exploring new possibilities.
Who knows what could happen when people do that?
It could lead to something amazing.
The next big invention or discovery or maybe just a moment of inspiration that changes someone's life.
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
Well, on that note, I think it's time for us to come back down to earth.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I guess so.
We've reached the end of our deep dive into Gustave Eiffel's secret apartment.
It's been a fascinating journey.
Thank you all for listening. We hope you enjoyed exploring this hidden world with us.
And we hope it's inspired you to look a little closer at the world around you.
You never know what amazing stories you might find hidden in plain sight.
So keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep looking up.
Until next time.